Canto number 4. Chapter 12. Dhruva Maharaj goes back home. Come here. Put the microphone on this side, because it's facing the speaker and making feedback. Text number 36. Yad Pajamanam Svaruchaiva Sarvato Lokas Chayo Hi Anu Vibranjanta Ete Yan Navajan Jantusu Ye Nanugraha Bhajanti. This is too loud. Adjust this. And also this is like right in the path of the microphone, so it's like, Vajrani, Chiranti, Ye, Nisham, Yad Brajamanam Svaruchaiva Sarvato Lokastrayo Hi Anu Vibhajanta Ite Yan Navajan Jan Tusu Ye Nanugraha Pajanti Bhadrani Chiranti Ye Nisham Yad Brajamanam Svaruchaiva Sarvato Lokastrayo Hi Anu Vibhajanti Te Yan Navajan Jan Tusu Ye Nanugraha Prajanti Bhadrani Chiranti Ye Nisham Yad Brajamanam Svaruchaiva Sarvato Lokastrayo Hi Anu Vibhajanta Ete Yan Navajan Jan Tusu Ye Nanugraha Prajanti Bhadrani Chiranti Ye Nisham Yat, which planet? Rajamanam, illuminating. Svarucha, by self-effulgence. Eva, only. Sarvata, everywhere. Loka, planetary systems. Chaya, 3. He, certainly. Anu, thereupon. Virajante, give off light. Ete, these. Yat, which planet? Na, not. Avrajan, have reached. Jantusu, to living entities. Yea, those who. Anugraha, not merciful. Prajanti, reach. Bhadrani, welfare activities. Chiranti, engage in. Yea, those who. Anusham, constantly. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. Please repeat. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. Purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON's founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Here is a description of 2 aspects of the Vaikuntha planets. The first is that in the Vaikuntha sky there is no need of the sun and moon. This is confirmed by the Upanishads as well as Bhagavad Gita, Nadtad Vasyate Suryo na Sasanko na Pavakaha. In the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha lokas are themselves illuminated. There is therefore no need of sun, moon, or electric light. It is in fact the illumination of the Vaikuntha lokas which is reflected in the material sky. Only by this reflection are the suns in the material universes illuminated. After the illumination of the sun, all the stars and moons are illuminated. In other words, all the luminaries in the material sky borrow illumination from Vaikuntha Loka. From this material world, however, people can be transferred to the Vaikuntha Loka if they incessantly engage in welfare activities for all other living entities. Such incessant welfare activities can really be performed only in Krishna consciousness. There is no philanthropic work within this material world but Krishna consciousness that can engage a person 24 hours a day. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning how to take all of suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Even if one is not successful in reclaiming all the fallen souls back to Godhead, still, because he is Krishna conscious, his path to Vaikuntha Loka is open. He personally becomes qualified to enter the Vaikuntha Lokas, and if anyone follows such a devotee, he also enters into Vaikuntha Loka. Others who engage in envious activities are known as karmis. Karmis are envious of one another. Simply for sense gratification, they can kill thousands of innocent animals. Jnanis are not as sinful as karmis, but they do not try to reclaim others back to Godhead. They perform austerities for their own liberation. Yogis are also engaged in self-aggrandizement by trying to attain mystic powers. But devotees, Vaishnavas, or servants of the Lord come forward in the actual field of work in Krishna consciousness to reclaim fallen souls. Only Krishna conscious persons are eligible to enter into the spiritual world. That is clearly stated in this verse and is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says that there is no one dearer to him than those who preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita to the world. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unlitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vidam Dam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavidams Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyas Cha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is a very important verse, very poignant, very profound, and very, very interesting. The qualification or the symptom, the quality of one going back home, back to Godhead, is being very directly described here, and we should take very serious note of it. This and also tomorrow's verse, persons who are peaceful, equiposed, cleansed, and purified, and who know the art of pleasing all other living entities, keep friendship only with the devotees of the Lord, they alone can very easily achieve the perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada makes no hesitation and very thoroughly and in a very, very rightful, in that he has earned the right to speak this. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning. Now we're going to go back up. From this material world, people can be transferred to the Vaikuntha Loka if they incessantly engage in welfare activities for all other living entities. Such incessant welfare activities can really be performed only in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness is, by definition, the consciousness of engaging in the topmost welfare activity for all other living entities. That is what a Krishna conscious person does or is. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. And it's very, very interesting how Maitreya Muni, who is speaking this to Vidura, he is saying how in the first part, and Prabhupada mentions, here's a description of two aspects of the Vaikuntha planets. The first is that the Vaikuntha sky, there is no need of sun and moon. This is confirmed in the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, from the 8th chapter, Nadtad Bhasyate Suryo Nasanko Napavaka. In the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha Lokas are themselves illuminated. And Prabhupada very much liked the example that comes from the Bhagavatam, that we need one very powerful moon giving off its wonderful moonshine is more valuable than millions and millions of stars that even all together cannot give off the same illuminating light. So the actual devotees of the Lord are compared to very, very beautiful, powerful, useful moons. Prabhupada goes on to describe the karmis, jnanis, and yogis. And after describing how horrible are the karmis, that for their own insignificant and meaningless sense gratification, why does one have to eat the flesh from the poor killed animals? Completely unnecessary. But they do that out of lust and greed and envy. Jnanis are not as sinful as karmis, but they do not try to reclaim others back home, back to Godhead. They perform austerities for their own liberation. An actual Bhajananandi we can see in the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was an exemplary Ghostiyanandi and also performing his Ghostiyanandi activities in the Grihastha ashram, showing how the Grihastha ashram is not or doesn't have to be, a blind well falling into, then one completely forgets everything. Jayadvaita Maharaj in his class the day before yesterday was describing how we want our children to be well situated and we send them to a good college, prestigious university, so they can begin their life $300,000 in student loan debt, but we think that they're properly situated. But to become a brahmachari and give their life to spreading Krishna consciousness, oh, this is a terrible thing. So that which is best, they see as the karmis see as the worst. And what is actually the worst, they think it's the best. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was showing an exemplary grihastha ashram, but at the end of his life he was instructed by the Lord himself to become a bhajananandi. And he said that by your simply chanting incessantly in Jagannath Puri, that chanting will deliver the entire world. And we see there's periods in our Vaishnav history where the link in the Sampradaya is indeed such a qualified bhajananandi. There's a very exalted position where Krishna says, simply chant, and by that you will deliver the entire world. Not that you will please me and not deliver the chanting. And there's purpose and reason why Krishna gives that order to a particular devotee according to time, place, and circumstance. This is not to be imitated. So when we take the merciful attraction that we have to Krishna consciousness and, let's just say, in a selfish way, in an immature way, want to expand that happiness or ecstasy to the extent that we don't give our time and energy, especially when we're young and strong and healthy, to expanding Krishna consciousness in favor of just living the lifestyle or self-styled, according to our own imagination, what is an advanced devotee, then this is also in this same category of selfishness, which always doesn't end well and doesn't lead to the desired result ultimately. They perform austerities for their own liberation. Yogis are also engaged in self-aggrandizement by trying to attain mystic powers. But devotees, Vaishnavas, who are servants of the Lord, come forward in the actual field of work. One of the very important themes in Prabhupada's presentation, you can hear in his lectures and classes, why do they say that this world is false? It is an emanation of the complete absolute truth. So everything has its origin in Krishna and has its proper utilization. We don't say that this material world is false, but it is temporary. And because we are eternal and our existence and ultimate activities are eternal, we cannot be satisfied in temporary activities, in temporary situations. So therefore, the actual intelligent person, the actual selfless, not materially motivated devotee will gravitate and will be attracted to perform ultimate welfare activities for everyone else, which is the quality of the spiritual world as it is the origin. Everything, all activities in the spiritual world are based upon permanence and ultimate reality. Prabhupada said, I am like a wheat threshing machine. You can bring me to heaven, to hell, anywhere, and I will do the same thing. Preaching and distributing Krishna consciousness. In the spiritual world, where everyone is a devotee, that preaching or distribution of Krishna consciousness, Krishna describes in the 9th verse of the 10th chapter, the thoughts of my pure devotees, Bhagavad Gita, dwell in me, their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss in enlightening one another and conversing about me. They come forward in the actual field of work of Krishna consciousness. A pure devotee cannot see anyone as not being servant of Krishna and spirit soul. There is no way that you can make the devotee compromise that vision and way of identifying and interacting with every living entity. So whether he's in Goloka Vrindavan, whether he is in the material world, the same pure mentality exists. And in the material world, where by nature the living entities covered by the illusory energy are spontaneously or by automatic reflex averse to Krishna conscious, the pure devotee, in a sense, ups his game more because he becomes even more determined to overcome that illusory energy that's holding all living entities in her grasp by freeing them. Prabhupada, after suffering 2 heart attacks on the Jaladuta, I wish that you may deliver them. He's praying. And we were just reading this morning, after Prabhupada had been trying for a good 2 or 3 months to get the first Radha Krishna temple here in New York. He didn't lose his enthusiasm. He wasn't discouraged. He just kept going. Now I am here in New York, the world's greatest city, such a magnificent city. But my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita that a pure devotee can create the Vrindavan atmosphere anywhere he is pleased to remain by his pure and empowered Krishna consciousness. I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, that sacred place. When Prabhupada returned to New York and stayed in his original apartment at 26 2nd Avenue in July of 1967, he had suffered another heart attack on Memorial Day weekend at the end of May. He had tried to regain his health twice on the seashore in San Francisco and then again New Jersey, and he made a decision to return to India. And you can see it's a black and white film made by Damodar Das, one of Prabhupada's first disciples, and it's called Swamiji, and it's close-ups of Srila Prabhupada in his apartment. The devotees wanted this to be made because Prabhupada was going to India and perhaps not going to return, and the devotees were greatly aggrieved at the thought of this, so they wanted something to meditate on Prabhupada. It's a very powerful film, actually. And there was a painting of the Radha Madan Mohan temple and the Yamuna, one of Jadharani's early paintings. And devotees, Prabhupada was going to leave the very next day. Prabhupada said, if you meditate on this picture while I'm in Vrindavan, you will be in Vrindavan, and if you follow my instructions and go on chanting, we will be all packed up together and never separated. But why are you here? Now, because it is my duty. I have brought some message for you people, because I have been ordered by my superior, my spiritual master. Whatever you have learned, you should go to the Western countries, and you must distribute this knowledge. So in spite of all my difficulties, all my inconveniences, I am here because I am obligated by duty. It's another important aspect, especially for the initiated devotee. He is duty-bound to the disciplic succession. He is duty-bound to his spiritual master, who is the current link in that disciplic succession. Vaisheshekha Prabhu has very nicely given a name to not just the Prabhupada Marathon. I think it's used at other times. It could be used all the time. Live to give. We are living to give. That is why we are living. A devotee, what does we say of Haridas Thakur? He reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die while they are still living in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and while living, they spread the holy name around. Only Krishna-conscious persons are eligible to enter into the spiritual world. That is clearly stated in this verse and is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says that there is no one dearer to him than those who preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita to the world. Yad Brajamanam Saruchaiva Sarvato Lokastriyo Hi Anuvibhajanti Te Yanavajan Jantusu Ye Nanugraha Brajanti Bhajrani Chiranti Ye Nisham. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. Any questions or comments?
We're trying, but we're not really getting any results.
How do you know what the result, how do you know that you're able to perceive what the results are? What is the result?
Short-term results.
Maybe you're not going to get the short-term results because it's because the long-term results, which take longer to get to, is more important than getting the immediate short-term results. Just like Prabhupada, he was trying to get this building, and he was like, and we just heard, in the name of getting free from the Mishra Yoga Society, his expenses had increased, his comforts had decreased, all his would-be supporters who he was counting on, like his godbrothers who were obligated just like he was to their superior, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who wanted temples in cities like New York, London, Paris, Tokyo, etc., weren't helping. So nicely described by Satsvarup Maharaj at the end of this chapter, it will not be possible to assist you. Seeing him from a distance, a tiny figure walking Manhattan streets. So because he's, seeing Nata Bhargaranga, seeing Rama Raya Das, riding New York City subway system, a tiny figure riding the subway, like many other tiny figures in the subway. Of course, our visa hasn't run out because our method of acquiring our present nationality is by birth. We come upon the external appearance of Srila Prabhupada. These days of struggle were real enough and very difficult, but his transcendental consciousness was always predominant. He was not living in Manhattan consciousness, but was absorbed in dependence upon Krishna. Just as when on the Jaladuta he had suffered his heart attacks, his reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita had supplied him the nectarine of life. So our success is every single day, every single moment that we are Krishna consciousness. And concluding this chapter where all his hopes were dashed, and he was just left alone in a struggle in the dead of the most coldest and most snowiest winter on record, since records have been kept from the late 1800s. He had already succeeded. Certainly he wanted to provide Radha and Krishna a temple in New York. And in our case, we want people to take notice of Radha Govinda's temple here. We should have so many more devotees staying here. We should have so many more programs, so many more devotees going out on Harinam, not a daily struggle. So much more book distribution. Certainly wanted to provide Radha and Krishna a temple in New York, but his success was that he was remembering Krishna even in New York City in the winter of 65, 66. Whether the world recognized him or not, not a day went by when he did not work on Krishna's book, Srimad Bhagavatam, and not a day went by when he did not offer food to Krishna and speak on Krishna's philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. All right. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for those who see me everywhere and see everything in me, I am never lost to him and he is never lost to me. And Krishna assures his pure devotee that my devotee will never be vanquished. There was never any doubt about this. The only question was whether Americans would take notice of the pure devotee in their midst. At this point, it seemed that no one was going to take him seriously. Was Srila Prabhupada ultimately taken very seriously? Yes. So we are representing Srila Prabhupada, who was the most worthy person to be taken seriously. When our representation of that will be noticed, and on what scale and on what level, we shouldn't be too much overwhelmed with worry over that. We do our duty to the best of our ability, and the results are up to Krishna. One interesting point comes to my mind. Devotees would say, or people would ask, if Lord Chaitanya is God, why didn't he spread the holy name and his movement all over the world when he was present? One time Prabhupada said, because he left that service for me to do. Of course, our service is not complete until everyone is a Premika Bhakta, from Shraddha to Prema. So there's a lot of service to be done. Krishna likes to glorify his devotees for their hard work and triumphantly overcoming obstacles. The time, place, and circumstance might not be right. Arguably, Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers went to London in the early 1930s. They even went and had some opportunity to talk to the high-ranking leaders of the German government, who I don't even want to describe who they were, but we all know who they were. We could logically construe that might not have been the best time to launch Krishna consciousness and in the right place. Prabhupada came to New York. He had the acquaintance on the Upper West Side. Some young people, it was Harvey Cohn who met him. He was a hipster. He had the artist in residence loft on the top floor of 94 Bowery. He met Prabhupada in Monroe, New York at the Ananda Ashram. That was his first time that he met him. And impressed, then he would visit him up there in the 72nd Street. And on his recommendation, he says, you got to come downtown. That's where all the young people are. And when Prabhupada came downtown, that's when things really started going. So those are some things to keep in mind. Anything else?
Hey, I'm writing a book on the rights of Krishna. It is true that at the beginning of the movement, there was no acceptance of women in the movement, and somebody convinced Prabhupada
What is your question, please?
The question is whether women were accepted.
What does that have to do with the, what does that have to do with the subject matter that we're speaking?
About a lot of things that happened in the past.
I'm sorry, I can't,
You can answer the question.
I can answer it, but I don't want to because it has nothing to do with the class and the subject matter, which is of very weighty importance here.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay. That's how you want to do it. But I'm just writing a book so everybody can know. Because we don't know the 16,000 wives of Krishna.
Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.